This is called a Megaminx Rubik's Cube, and today we're going to be learning how to make it in Blender. Alright, let's get started. First things first, make sure we delete everything in the scene. Next, we're going to add in an icosphere. And go down to the menu down here, and make sure it's on only one subdivision. Next up, we're going to add in a plane. Move it out by like 5 units just so it's out of the way. And then we're going to scale it up a little bit. Make sure you're in edit mode so that this doesn't actually change the scale of the object. I'll do probably 1.5 is good. Okay, next up. Before we get started, actually, I'm going to kind of explain the idea behind this and how this is going to work. So for this one, the way that we turn this into the shape that we're looking for, because right now, as you can see, everything is composed out of triangles. 20 triangles put together. I believe that's called a dodecahedron. Not totally sure though. But that's not what we want. We want something that is made out of pentagons. So what we're going to do, Control B to bevel, and there we are. Now to make sure we get exactly the right amount, I like to change it to % and then do 33.3333 so that they're all exactly on the same point. Just like that. However, you may notice we have multiple vertices all in the same location, and that's not really what we want. So select everything and then merge by distance. And as you can see, that fixes the issue. Alright, so this is the general shape of our object, and the way that we're going to be making the individual pieces that move around is by adding in planes that cut through the object and cut each of the faces into little pieces. And by putting all of those together, that is going to give us what we're looking for. The Megaminx is actually, in a way, not really that different from a Rubik's Cube. You can see all of the corners are a meeting of 3 edges. So it's really a similar theory, in a way. Okay, so the way that we're going to do that, we're going to add in another icosphere. This one, just leave as is, but make sure it's only on one subdivision as before. Next, we're going to pull up the geometry nodes menu. And if you don't know geometry nodes, don't worry, this is pretty simple. It's like 8 nodes total, fairly straightforward. So we're going to do new, zoom in here, and then we're going to do something called instance on points. And what that does is it's going to copy some other objects onto every single vertex of our object here. And it went away because we put this here, but we're going to do object info, grab the geometry, plug it into the instance, and then use the little eyedropper here and select our plane. And now, this is almost what we're looking for, but we want each of these planes to be facing away from the center. And you'll see why in just a moment. So the way we do that is grab a normal node, which is going to give us a vector directed away from the center of the object, plug it into the rotation node. And that did something, but that's not really what we want. So, this has something to do with the different ways that Blender encodes rotation. I'm not entirely sure, but the way we fix this is we go align Euler to vector, and it's actually going to default to the rotation socket, but we don't want that. We want it into the vector socket. And then we change it to Z, because our plane is facing up in the Z direction. And now, if you look at the top, you should be able to see this pentagon shape. And a bit hard to get a sense of. Looks like a big mess right now, but it'll make sense in just a moment, I promise. So, next up, actually what we want to do first is put one more node. Right now, none of this is actually real geometry. There's only one real object, and the rest of these are just instance copies, so they don't interact with other objects in the same way. And the way we fix this is we do a realize instances node and put that in the middle. And we'll see why that's important in just a moment. But for now, we actually need a solidify modifier on this plane, because we're going to be using it as a tool to cut into this object right here to create our overall shape that we're looking for. And this should be everything we need. We're going to add a Boolean modifier onto this object, difference, and then make sure you select self-intersection. Next, start scaling up. And then, oh, you actually need to select the object. That's it. That's important. And then we need the icosphere 1. And then if we hide that, as you can see, we got the general idea, but these edge pieces are looking a little bigger than I want. And this is actually, I don't know, on my computer at least, this is a relatively intense calculation. So you can't really smoothly, drag things around as you might like to. So instead, it's generally easier to do direct number entry into the inspector window here. So I think that looks about good in terms of proportions compared to our reference model. So that's actually going to do it. We're going to apply this modifier. Then we're going to get rid of this plane and then get rid of this hidden object we have here. And there it is. Thanks for watching. No, just kidding. There's still more. So we're going to go into edit mode, select everything, and then we're going to do separate by loose parts. And what this does is now we have each of these chunks just on its own. It's its own thing. Now I'm going to try to select, yeah, there it is, this little core that's inside of our object, which, by the way, is the same shape as the object itself. Interesting. So we don't need that, and we'll never see it anyway, because even when we're doing a rotation, if we grab this top thing, you never see inside the cube, or the Megaminx thing. Do you still call it a cube? I still would, because it's still like it's a type of Rubik's Cube, I think. But anyway, so we never see inside there, so we don't need to worry about that. And now we're actually done with the modeling process. Well, almost. One more thing I want to do is actually add little extrusions for the stickers. So before that, we're actually going to, now the Megaminx does have a bit of an odd color structure. Instead of the Rubik's Cube, where you have opposite color pairs, instead the opposite colors are always the same, but they're just at different levels of saturation or value. So I would recommend pulling up a reference image, because it is a little odd how it goes together. Or better yet, have an actual Megaminx with you, but I don't have one of those, so I have to just look at reference images online. So just look up Megaminx color scheme, and you should find what you're looking for. It's kind of an unwrapped pattern. Okay. So we're going to need a black material for the base plastic. Going to need white for the top, red, blue, yellow, kind of a dark purple, a bit of a dark green. Okay, now that we have all those, next up we need a gray one, a pink one, a kind of lime green one, and at this point you will have to start messing with the saturation slider, an orange one, kind of a teal cyan type color, and finally a desaturated yellow. And that's going to be all the colors we need. So because our black material is first in the list, it's going to be the default material for everything. So we're going to copy material to selected, Then I switch to material preview. Yep, looking good. Okay. Now, for modeling everything, select everything at once, and then we want to select only the outer faces. So I'm not sure if there's an easier way to do this. There probably is, but here's how I like to do it. Just select all the middle pieces, and then do Shift-G coplanar. And then that should only be the outside, not the middle bits. Okay. And then I'm going to change to individual origins. And then we're going to make sure we're in face select mode. Extrude individual faces. But don't move it around. Just scale it down. And you can look at it from above if you want to change this. I think that looks about right for what I'm going for. Basically, I'm doing the sort of classic Rubik's Cube Company Megaminx style. And in those, there's just a plastic sticker on every one of them that kind of stands out from the rest. Okay. Now, we're going to extrude, and I'm going to get a bunch of blue lines, but that is okay. Now, for this one, you actually, yeah, be careful about this one, because it's a little harder to fix later. But if you do want to fix it later, you just want to change your thing here to normal, and then if you do Z, you can move it in and out. Don't do scale, because that will actually mess up some of the locations here. Anyway, I think that looks good. And then finally, we add a little bevel modifier on here. Probably 2 segments. Shade smooth by angle. Perhaps. Oh, and don't keep sharp edge, I think. I think that's what we're probably looking for. Anyway, you can mess around with this, but it seems to have kept the sharp edge for some reason. That is quite odd. Anyway, I think that looks pretty good. I'm happy with how that looks. So, I'm gonna copy everything, and then we're going to copy to selected, shade smooth by angle, and we have our Megaminx cube looking good. Before we go any further with the material assignment, something I actually want to do now is, don't turn on magnet mode, is explain how we're going to do rotations for the animation. Because if you might notice, what if you want to rotate this piece here? You can't, it's not the x-axis, it's not the y-axis, it's its own weird special little thing, right? How exactly do we do that? Well, basically, we have to get rid of all these middle pieces. And then we're going to duplicate that one piece that's in the top, because we know that it has the rotation that we're looking for. So, okay, should be empty in the middle. And then this one we know rotates correctly. And so we're gonna move it around and get the rotations we need out of this. So if you look at it from the top, you'll notice that there's only one side that's actually aligned with either the X or the Y axis. And that's what we're gonna be using. So we're gonna duplicate and then rotate along the Y axis by 63.5 degrees. I did try to find some kind of math documentation on why that's the number. I wasn't really able to find that, but I believe that in my testing that does seem to be the correct number. Now you notice it is rotated off by a little bit, so rotate along the local Z axis by 36 degrees. And then you can double check, see wireframe, see how that's lining up. Looks good, okay. Oh, solid, okay. And now we just want to duplicate this, rotate it around the Z axis, not the local Z, the global Z, by 72 degrees. And then where did it go? Hold on. Okay, that was weird. Okay, not sure what happened there previously, but now it should look like this. And then, if we select any of these sides, we can rotate it along its local Z axis, and we have the rotation we're looking for. So then once we select a side like this, and then we have this selected, boom. Just like that. Okay, and then we need to copy it to the bottom faces as well, so select each of these, and then the middle one, swap it down to the bottom, and there we go. Now we have all of our rotations properly encoded, and it is still a little tedious to animate, to be honest, but I am not really sure that there's a better way to do this, short of doing something like Python scripting, so this is what I'm going to choose to go with. Okay, now it's time to assign materials. And this part is not very much fun, to be honest, but you just got to select every face, and then the side of the sticker also should be selected. So we're going to do select more or less, then more. And now, assign here, material preview. Yep. And there is a little bit of strangeness with these corners. I probably could dial in the settings on this bevel modifier a little more effectively. Maybe 3 would be better than 2, but I don't know. This is a harden normals perhaps, seam, sharp. Yeah, you can play around with this a little bit. I'm not going to get into it like super detailed on the tutorial, but yeah, after this, you pretty much do this procedure on every single side of the Megaminx. So it's just the same thing over and over, unfortunately. I don't think there's really a more convenient way to do this. Oh, actually. Oh, wow, this does work. Okay. I learned something new right in this tutorial. So coplanar looks like it's not only facing the same direction, but also like literally on the same plane. So we can still use this trick and then select more and then get our next material and then assign it. Okay, very nice. Anyway, I'm going to cut until after I've just done this procedure on every single one of the faces. Alright, I'm back. And as you can see, I've just copied that same procedure to every single face on the cube. Okay. Oh, actually, I think I did... Uh-oh, I think I did swap a couple. Okay, one second. Okay, never mind, we are good to go. So that's going to do it for the modeling. Obviously, I would recommend putting on, you know, you can do like texturing, shading to make this plastic texture look better, but I'm just going to keep it like this for the sake of the tutorial. So now it's time to add in the camera. Probably an angle like that is about good, just nice and simple. Or even move it a little bit face on so we get kind of the maximum amount of faces in view at a time. Yeah, I think that looks good. And then also we're going to switch to rendered. And then I'm going to be doing this on the Eevee engine just for the sake of being able to render this on a laptop. I'm going to put in a ground plane. We won't be doing this for the animation, but just for the sake of the render, I think it'll be good. And then area, I'm really not super knowledgeable on lighting, to be honest, so I just keep this nice and simple. Just point light here, and then another kind of backlight over here. Oh, little up probably. And then that's looking decent. Then for me, renders in 32 milliseconds or 320 milliseconds. I think that's what that means. Yeah. Okay. So I think that I'm going to call it there for the modeling and texturing phase. Now it's time for animation. So gonna hide everything, and then we're gonna go back to material preview. Okay. Open up this into timeline mode. And then if you've seen my 3x3 Rubik's Cube tutorial, it's going to be exactly the same procedure as that, except for a new procedure that we need for rotating these off-axis faces, which I'll show you how to do now. So the first step, as before, is to change everything to a quaternion to make sure that they know how to rotate correctly. Copy to selected, and then location rotation on everything. Actually, before that, I need to change my frames per second and then my downloads folder. So, okay, there we go. All right, so back to this. So for the top face, and then remember, pentagon 360 over 5, 72. So everything is done in increments of 72 degrees. Just like that. And we have our first movement. Now, the way that we do something for these sides is you just select the side, and then you make sure that the active element, which you can tell because it has a slightly lighter orange border than these other ones that are a little bit more red. And then we rotate, and as long as you have local selected up here, it should do this automatically as the first selection. Whoa. Not sure what I did there. Okay. Why is it doing this? That's... oh, I think you pick normal. Yeah, that's right. Not local, normal. My mistake. Okay. And then rotate along the Z-axis, 72 degrees. And then we get the rotation we're looking for. Make sure to keyframe everything every time you move anything. Otherwise, things will drift and not do so well. RZ, let's do like a 90 minus 72. In fact, repeat it. And then we'll go maybe this little like lime green section here. And now, take a look at our movement. And oh, that same issue we had in the Rubik's Cube video has popped up again. Now, why is this happening? It's because Bezier curves flow into each other a little bit. They don't strictly stop at where they end, so the way that we do this, we just open up the graph editor and change it to anything except Bezier. I happen to like the back motion, where it instantly springs in and then slowly fades into place. And then if you inspect on any particular points, the face is always maintaining its integrity. Alright. Now once again, this is doing the same thing over and over and again for a while, and especially more so because you have more faces this time. So I will again cut to once I have a proper scramble animation. Okay, so if we take a look here, got a 600 frame animation. Not exactly a perfect scramble. I think there are still a couple pieces, but I'm happy with that. So just like we did in my Rubik's Cube, like regular Rubik's Cube video, we'll extend this out. And then we're going to duplicate these keyframes. And then scale them. Whoa, that's rather odd, isn't it? Huh. Kind of like that, actually. That's cool. But anyway, that's not what we're doing right now. So scale X -1, and then move it out. So this way, we have a solve animation. Very nice. Okay. And now I think I'm going to trim animation a little bit here. Scale this down so it's a little more snappy. And as I explained in my other Rubik's Cube video, I like the idea of the scramble taking a shorter amount of time than the solve because it's random motion compared to thoughtful and deliberate action, even though it's exactly the same, just forward and backwards, but we don't need to worry about that. Alright, so to do the camera motion, we'll do the same thing we did in my other video. I'm going to add an empty to the middle there, and then we're going to parent our camera to the empty. Oh, other way around. There we go. And now we're going to keyframe the initial, and then 360 degrees, keyframe on that. And there we go. As before, to add a little bit more interest, I'm actually going to modulate the motion of, well, really it's the motion of the empty, but the motion of the camera, because it's attached to the empty, we're going to modulate that a little bit using some random noise. So here's how you do that. Go to the Z location. I like to start with that one. Modifiers, noise, and then we're going to crank the scale way up. Put the strength down a bit. Actually, scale in a little bit. And then we're going to do restrict frame range. This is a really cool feature. Lets us create these kind of perfect seamless loops, but with a little bit of added random camera motion in. And then let's do like 300 frames of blend in. See how we're feeling about that. Zoom the camera out a little bit, actually. Yeah, I think we could actually do the scale. Maybe not quite that much, but yeah, something like that. And then put it on all three of them. But change the phase. And you want to change the phase, not the offset. Not that it'll make a huge difference, but if you notice, the offset just moves it left and right, but the phase actually gets you to a different noise seed, essentially. So yeah, I think I'm actually going to turn the strength up a little bit on the Z one. Yeah. And then, well, okay, camera. Not quite focused in frame. Okay. And then this plane here, we don't really need that since it's not doing what we wanted previously. Next, I'm just going to add a little underlight. And that is our animation. I'm just going to clean it up a little bit, add motion blur, background, change up the materials a little bit, and then we'll take a look at the final render one more time. Alright, and that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching, I hope you found this interesting, and let me know if you decided to make this yourself. Have a good one. Bye.